talking racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, as they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show live on Monday on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube. Thanks so much for joining us live here today, Mr. Samich. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. We got new digs here. If you've been watching live, Del Mar is running on a Monday. So how could I not be doing good? So I've got Del Mar over here. They just went off in the second race. Really tough card today. A lot of live long shots. And then, we're doing some podcast action. So couldn't be better, man. How about yourself?
I'm pretty great. That opener at Del Mar on Monday was fantastic. It was won by a horse that you and I have lauded before, Harvest Moon. Man, it was a big deal because she debuted against winners. And I remember we handicapped that card and we both had her on our tickets because we said, Simon Callahan's not stupid. What's he doing here? And so then she breaks her maiden in her second start and then just romps here. I mean, if it wasn't, late July, I'd say we're looking at a Kentucky Oaks contender with the, potential development because it's only her third start and she's 3 years old. Maybe take her to Saratoga, take one shot, see if you can get enough points to make the Kentucky Oaks. But that's what Donna Veloce was supposed to look like if she'd stayed healthy this year.
Yeah, she looked good, man. She looked very, very good and really rode out impressively. There was a pretty hot pace in front of her, and she didn't beat a ton in this field, but she did nothing wrong. And you kind of have to give her some props about that. I mean, if the horse does nothing wrong, then what more do you want from it, right? So very impressive winner there. It'll be interesting to see what stakes race she goes to next because she will be going to a stakes race next.
Ooh, I'm watching this Del Mar finale.
We got 6, 7, and 1.
I've got. Oh, get up there, one. Get up there, one.
One's trying to split. It's another bad trip for the one. Ooh. Is it going to get there?
One got it. Yep, I'm ahead of you. Sorry. I
it.
had 1, 3, 5, and 6, and it was the top 4 chasing each other home, and I was just praying the 6 would fall apart. So.
Yeah, we used 1, 6, 7 on the bombs, and we started 1, 5, 6, 7 in the pick 4, and we're live in the pick 4 and the pick 5 rolling forward here. I love it. Good stuff, Del Mar, baby. I was going to say this. I didn't put it in the notes. Del Mar is really playable right now. I mean, I said this about Santa Anita before. Yesterday, I had 8 winners out of the 11 races. I just didn't have. I had the 15-1 that ran second to the 4 horse. So it was 9-1. I didn't have the 50-1 bomb. So those 2 races blew me up. But I mean, if you feel like you can pick winners at Del Mar right now, in Saratoga, it's a little bit more of a dartboard in my mind. So I the bombs are probably going to be at Del Mar if we get field sizes next weekend, because I think that's the more playable track of the 2 right now. And the pools are huge.
Yeah, there's some amazing pools, and I'm with you. I actually took yesterday off. I took Sunday off. Spent a lot of time. If I look a little less pale, it's because I spent half the day drinking at the pool, which is pretty fun.
I like it.
But I went back this morning while I was eating breakfast, and I handicapped every race, and then I watched the replays, to really look into so they could watch it live. And let's see, there were 2 races. One that I can't remember which race it was. It was the opener. I didn't have the opener, and I was like, even looking at it handicapping, I was like, I should just buy this race. I hate Sparkyville. That horse I'm never ever on the right side of. And then that 56 to 1 shot. But the reason that 56 to 1 shot won, other than lightning in a bottle, is one of the things we're going to talk about that we learned this weekend, because I think there is a significant track bias on the dirt at Del Mar right now. But before we get into that, Mike, what's the best thing you saw this weekend?
Well, this one's actually pretty easy for me. The Blues got into the bubble today. I didn't realize how much I miss sports. And I'm watching freaking Major League Baseball. And I'm like, yeah, I miss sports. I'm watching preseason basketball in a bubble in Major League Baseball. I was watching MLS, which is nothing against it. I mean, I don't mind soccer, but like I am actively seeking out sports. And so now that I get my favorite one back with a really good Blues team jumping right into the playoffs, man, I'm on cloud 9 about that. I didn't realize how excited I would be. And I am just through the moon about getting hockey back, being able to watch this weekend or next weekend and just this weekend. Yeah. I think and just getting it going, man, because it's going to be nice to have that back. And I'm glad, I think the NHL has the best chance to succeed. Doing it in Canada is a great start versus America, not traveling, doing the bubbles. I mean, I tweeted about this. MLB was messed up from the beginning. 60 games in 64 days, traveling from city to city. You're just waiting for something to happen, and you're not going to be able to trace it back when it does. So not shocked. I'm surprised it only took a week, but I'm not surprised that we're here. So it'll be interesting to see what they would do with the season moving forward, too.
Yeah, baseball. There's so many problems with their schedule in a normal year. I think that it should be about 82 games like a normal sport instead of all this crap that they do. But it's where the money is at, so I understand why it happens.
You got to fulfill those TV contracts.
Oh my God, we got to pay those Mike Trout contracts and those Bryce Harper contracts, man. Those guys. If you want to make money for no reason in sports, just play baseball.
Yeah, hit a white ball. It's either baseball or golf. Those are the two that make the money and do it easy.
The best thing that I saw came Friday night at Monmouth Park. I thought this was really cool. We talk sometimes about small barn trainers and watching for what they're good at. You can't get smaller than a one-horse barn, which is what Luis Rivera Jr. has. He's 53 years old. This guy was a rider for a long time. Realized he wasn't going to be able to ride forever, so he took out his trainer's license. He's got one horse. He happens to own that horse, and on Friday he rode that horse to victory. It was a 12-5 claimer at Monmouth Park.
Hey, whatever works.
But man, like, it's so cool I loved this story about how he got this horse himself, trains it every morning, walks it, exercises it himself. He's got one horse, and then he goes out and rides it to win. I was like, this is like that's just so cool when a small time operation, literally one guy who does everything himself, goes out and gets a win at a track like Monmouth Park. We're not talking Fauner Park here. We're talking Monmouth Park. Yeah, so it's I'd say that's a B-level track for sure. So the fact that he does that and gets up every morning by himself, and it's literally a one-man operation from start to finish. Congratulations to him. I thought that was pretty cool, and also it's got to be nice not to have to split 10% to the jockey, 10% to the trainer, and the owner gets the other 80%. Right. So congrats to him. And the horse's name was Strawberry Red.
I assume he didn't have a jockey's agent either. Probably called the owner himself and picked up that mount. It's like harness racing, man. You get that a lot in harness racing. We have trainer, jockey, and owner all the same. But yeah, thoroughbred, it's really not that common. Although it's surprising how many trainers do get up on horses. I mean, Wesley Ward was a jockey before he was a trainer. Rudy Rodriguez. One interesting thing, if you do buy the workout reports, clock reports at DRF for Saratoga, it often mentions whether or not he rides the horse in the morning, which I think is actually an interesting tell, especially if it's the first or second workout before the race. If he's up, he's trying to learn something about that horse to properly place it. So I think that's kind of an interesting angle too. And it is a lot. It's fun to see these trainers multitasking. They don't just train. People don't always know that they do a lot more than just that. And so, like I said, cool to see that happen. And whenever you see a pet win like that, that's an awesome thing.
Yeah. I was real happy for him. So I saw that Friday night, or I should say I saw that Saturday morning, and I was like, I don't think it's going to take something really incredible to make better than what I saw. I will say Enable gave it a good try, because if you didn't see Enable win Saturday morning, there's a reason she's the number one star at racingnews.com this week, and it's not close to second, man. She was so unbelievable. I know it was a 3-horse race, but my God, she was so. I mean, Dettori said afterwards, it's a good thing that I have a mask on because you couldn't see my emotions through everything. So she wins a Grade 1 race at Ascot for the third time. It's a record. And now she's probably going to have one more start and go for her record third arc, and her second time trying to win her third arc. So, God, that horse is so cool, man. Cool.
It's rare that you're blown away by a performance in a 3-horse field. But man, I was blown away by that performance in the 3-horse field. Like, if you haven't seen the race, it's totally worth watching it back. I mean, the replays all over the place, and she's one of those special horses, the once in a lifetime horses that you get every now and then. And it's been really cool that we've been able to see her in America too. It's not just been overseas. So hopefully we'll get some more Enable, the Breeders' Cup, see what happens.
Well, we got a couple of first-time watchers and joiners here, so thank you again for joining us live. We do this every Monday and Thursday, 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific. Thursday show, we give out a pick 4 sequence, usually at Del Mar and Saratoga this time of year. And then on Mondays, we talk about what we learned, the good and the bad, which is about what we're going to do right now. So we got a lot of Del Mar and Saratoga to cover. You ready, Mike?
Let's roll.
All right. Riders up. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about is track biases at Del Mar and Saratoga, and there definitely was a bias at Saratoga on the turf going into this past weekend, and it was something that we covered a lot on the show, and we said if you're a speed horse, you're not holding on. It doesn't matter where you're at. It was something crazy like 3 for 26 that speed horses were at Saratoga, and some of these were loose on the lead speed horses that just still couldn't get it done. So, Mike, you wanted to talk about this because you think that it's changed a little bit now. Tell us about the Saratoga turf.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't gotten rain here in a while, and nothing substantial. And you could see the turf, especially in turf sprints, really play to horses that were forwardly placed. And so about midway through the weekend, I completely switched up my strategies in turf sprints. I was looking for horses that were on the lead or right off the lead. You were not being able to close from deep in those 5.5 turf sprints. And that, to me, was a big difference. So I was looking for horses that I thought were going to be forwardly placed. And I'm going to continue to do that. We haven't gotten much rain here, and I don't believe there's any rain scheduled for tomorrow. And if it doesn't rain these next 2 days, you're going to see a faster turf course. It didn't fully translate over to the two-turn races, but I wouldn't be shocked if this weekend that changes. As the ground gets harder, you're going to see speed play a little bit better. The turf course getting a little more action in it. You're going to see it firm up a little bit. I think that speed is going to be good at Saratoga this weekend over the turf. So I'm going to be looking for those wire-to-wire winners again, going 2 turns and see if I can beat the curve a little bit. Because with the sprints, it's now out there. You watched last weekend, you need to be near the lead or on the lead to be able to win those turf sprints. If you're before everyone else finding the 2 turns on the turf, you're going to be able to get a couple prices home before the market moves. And so I'm going to try and do that probably early on Wednesday or Thursday and see if I can be correct in a couple of these turf races with front runners going 2 turns.
Well, and there was a great example of it Sunday in the Bernard Baruch Handicap. That's a 2-turn inner turf race where when we previewed it on the website, Dr. Miranda did her weekly preview for this race, and she picked Holiday thinking that Holiday was going to go gate to wire. She got the gate to wire part right, so she was ahead of the curve there.
Right idea, wrong horse.
Exactly, which is, I mean, I'll hand it to her. She's been that way with every single bet that she's had, where she's had the right idea. It's just, getting the right horse across. So something like a Hot Brown went gate to wire. But I watched that race Sunday evening before I wrote the recap, and I was like, how did a speed horse do it? Well, like Mike said, it's changing a little bit. So it's good to notice these things before the market adjusts, like Mike said, because that's how you're going to get some prices. And it's looking like there's going to be some good turf action coming up this week at Saratoga. They got the Bowling Green, the Caress is a sprint, lots of options.
Yeah, and Quick just paid $8 to win. Wow, that's a nice 3-to-1 price on the one horse, and Del Mar's second there. The turf race is going to be great this weekend. The sprints, especially, like I said, speed. And if you look back at something like the Bowling Greens, there's been a lot of turf races stolen on the lead here. Once you get to the middle of the meet, and I think that's something you got to pay attention to, even at those top levels now, especially if you're getting these crawling New York paces, and we're going, 51. Whoever's on the lead's dangerous, so you got to watch out for it.
Yeah. So over at Del Mar, it's been a little different there. The track bias I want to talk about is the dirt. And I'd love to hear, because you and I haven't talked about this yet, I'd love to hear if you saw the same thing I did, where if you were on the inside 1-2 paths off the far turn, you were toast. You were almost toast. There were very rare instances where that wasn't the case. One of them being San Diego Handicap, which we'll talk in a little bit. But if you were on the inside coming off the turn on the dirt, it was so deep and slow. And the track was deep and slow the entire weekend as it is, but that seemed to be just a really tough spot to try and run. And if you go back and watch race 9 on Sunday at Del Mar, I think this is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. You had the favorite was Friars Road, who was a maiden entered in the San Diego Derby last time out. He comes back here to a maiden special weight. He was 4 to 5 wide the entire time around the track. And when he came off the far turn in the middle of the track, he exploded, where there was plenty of fast dirt for him to dig into and take off. And the horses on the inside were kind of paddling. Flavien Prat was on the 3, who was leading off the turn, and Prat kept him 3 lanes out, trying to fight to get there. It left the rail open for the 7 horse. The 7 horse flew in, and in about 2 seconds after the 7 looked like he was going to scoot up the rail, boom, big old invisible wall smacked the horse in the face and just stopped. And yet you had all these horses closing on the outside in the dirt. So if you get a chance after the show's over, or if you're watching the replay, pause it. Go watch race 9 at Del Mar on Sunday, because I think that is a perfect encapsulation of what I'm seeing as a big track bias on the dirt. But like I said, we haven't talked about this, so I'd love to hear what your thoughts are too.
Yeah, I noticed 2 things. First off, middle of the track clearly better. And I think you mentioned this, one of the best ways to tell or to quickly analyze whether or not the middle is going to be better, people want to be off the rail, does the speed go 3 wide? When the speed horses, the jockeys take the speed horses 2-3 paths off the rail, they're giving away that the rail is not good and that they don't want to be anywhere near it. So that's a great example of that as well, where the 3-horse Flavien Prat's horse does end up going 3 wide. I like speed right now at Del Mar. I think you need to be a little more forwardly placed. You're not seeing a lot of people really close around the turn. You're getting a couple horses that get brave once they get into the lane too. I thought the 3 was actually going to be one of those. I was single to World Candy, who was the 3-horse in this race at 10 to 1. And I was actually feeling pretty good until that 10 kept that move going, because you saw all day those 4 wide moves, but then that the speed horse, who was 3-4 pass out too, would dig back in, and that they wouldn't be able to sustain the move wide. In this case, they did. The other, and I, by the way, would totally play World Candy back out of this, either on the turf or the dirt. I think that this horse is a good horse long term. It's rarely that you see Slam Dunk and Michael Dubb in on a horse. The other horse you have to look at this race, look at the 5-2, Solo Amino. If you are going to watch this race back, watch the replay. This horse had all kinds of trouble, got checked heavy at the top of the stretch, and still made a run down the lane. So I'm stabling up 2 horses from this race too, World Candy and Solo Anima, the 3 and the 5 from the 9th race at Del Mar on Sunday.
So looking at the handicapping for what I did yesterday retroactively, and then for today at Del Mar, I really took that into consideration. If I thought that there was a chance you were going to be leading on the inside, especially if you're an inside horse, if I thought in a sprint, double especially, if you were going to be up front along the inside, I didn't give you a shot in hell of winning. Did you adjust your handicapping like that? I mean, I'm not saying it was just a blanket automatic chuck, but it was something I definitely gave consideration to for today's card.
It depends on the jockey. I trust certain jockeys there to properly take their speed horse wide, which means that, so if it's Pratt, and I saw Pratt do it yesterday, I trust Pratt on inside speed, because inside speed will be 3-lane speed. And the other thing that you got to think about is a lot of these horses, especially with the current conditions, will not want to close on the inside. So the speed horse can go as wide as he wants, and everyone will just go one path wider. So, you can kind of float the whole field out, because no one's going to think hey, go ahead, try and close on the inside on me right now. Right. So, if you're on the lead and you're clear, you can really make a decision to what path you go into around the turn and into the lane. And I think the good jockeys really separate themselves there. The Cedillos and the Rispolis and the Pratts, they will take those horses 3-4 wide. So you can go 5 wide, which, by the way, is a longer route than if I'm 1 and you're 2. The wider route that speed horse goes, the wider the rest of the field goes. That's a bigger difference. It's exponentially bigger every path. If you're a smart jockey, it's not as big of a deal. But man, if you get some of the bugs or things like that, that's when you can be a little more concerned about that.
And perfect to keep going with what you said, who was riding World Candy was Flavien Prat. He had 2 lanes open to his inside, and he said, "No, I'm going to stay outside." Yep. I saw Mike Smith was the first one I noticed really like. I could actively see him trying to keep his horse outside all the way around the track, which I saw that Saturday. And if you had a chance to watch the Racing Dudes live show, there was a point in the day when I called it out and I said, you've got to watch this because of what's happening. And I said, and watch the San Diego, because I bet you anything you're going to see there's 5 smart jockeys in there, and you're going to see them all trying to do something crazy like that. And I think that's a good segue into it, Mike. We can talk about the San Diego Handicap. Big story coming in. Maximum Security making his big return since the Saudi Cup. First race for Bob Baffert. I was actually surprised he was 2-5. I expected 1-5 when he went off. He was 1-9 for forever there. I'll hand it to you, because you said in your 50-cent ticket you think that Midcourt had a shot to beat him. Midcourt ran his ass off. I don't care what you want to say about Victor Espinoza in that ride. He ran his ass off, partially because he was stuck on the inside of Maximum Security in the stretch and didn't give up. Based on that sigh, I'm guessing you're not that happy that Midcourt didn't get it done. I had him singled, and you didn't.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. We hit the pick 4 from the show, which is great. It lost money, but if you look back at it, I'm not upset about the tickets at all. I guess I should have gone with Laura's Light instead of Outwork, but Outwork's trip was atrocious. Got shuffled all the way back early and never had a chance at actually winning that race. In this race, though, man, I thought it was really interesting kind of how this played out. I mean, first off, I don't mind the ride by Victor Espinoza at all. I thought this was one of the more interesting race. Like, if you haven't watched this race, watch this replay back. It was really interesting how these jockeys tried to attack Maximum Security. When you have a heavy favorite like this, a lot of times everyone will try and specifically set up to beat that horse. And I love that everyone tried to win this race. Because sometimes you have horses running for second in these spots because the purses are big and you're not really going to beat Maximum Security if you're someone like Axeman, So it was really interesting to see the tactics here. Maximum Security got in the lead. Midcourt just fired right out, got back up on the lead in front of him and kind of made him a little uneasy, forced him to kind of stalk behind. I liked the move by Higher Power. I was a little disappointed that Higher Power didn't slow down more. They could have really pinned Maximum Security in. I think that would have been the top strategic play, but it was interesting to see how they then forced him to go 3 wide. And then, the Midcourt ended up shifting out 2 paths. So he was like 6 wide by the time he actually got down the lane. And Midcourt ran a heck of a race, man. Absolutely dug in, was passed, fought back, lost the bob. The reason why I was frustrated, if you look at the pick 3s, it was paying $5 to Maximum Security, and it was paying $55 to Midcourt. So that's the pick 4 that paid $38 pays $400 with Midcourt. And that's assuming that you're less singled in the pick 3 than the pick 4. And I guarantee the pick 4, he was more singled. So I wouldn't be surprised with a $500 pick 4 that we missed by a nose that was really logical. if you just get by this one horse. And so it was a frustrating set there, but I was happy with the tickets. It didn't work out quite right. So nothing you can really do there. And your call in the last race on the 8 was great. I mean, that Pratt horse dropping in at 6-1
was my top pick.
Goes off at 2-1s and an easy winner. So you definitely could get to this multiple times if you wanted to go that route. And I actually used the 8 in my $5 ticket there. Oh, thanks.
Look at that. Look at that nose bob right there.
I actually used the 8 in my $5 ticket the next morning. So I would have had the $5 ticket if 9 horse Warren's Challenge, Warren's Showtime.
Yep.
Yeah, in the previous race. But like I said, trip was no bueno.
Yeah, look at that. So if you're watching live, we got that's the official win photo right there at Del Mar. You brought up one of my favorite parts. I was so amped after this race because I think Jared said it. Jared Aaron, somebody said, maybe it was you. I'm sorry if it was, that it wasn't me. That's the important part. Somebody smarter than me said, it's nice to see jockeys riding to win. You had a 5-horse field. It's a great $250,000, not a big purse. Everyone's looking forward to the Pacific Classic next out. So this wasn't like the race they're all trying to win. Man, those jockeys went after him hard. I mean, you saw Flavien Prat move Higher Power up, which I don't have any issue with him attacking midway down the backstretch. I think he sensed that Victor was slowing things down. And I also think he was trying to keep Maximum Security pinned in. Because if you watch what happens, as soon as Higher Power gets past Maximum Security, he stops pushing.
Yep.
He makes sure the Maximum Security is to his inside. He lets midcourt go back off a little bit, and Flavien Prat kept him right there, and he tried his good. And then to his credit, Abel Cedillo saw what they were doing, slammed on the brakes, took him out 3 wide. It was kind of like Manny Franco in the Holy Bull. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I have to be clear. And like we talked about in the live show, Bob Baffert chose Abel Cedillo because he was the closest to Luis Saez, meaning he's very aggressive. Yep. And Cedillo was riding him the entire turn and into the stretch because he's supposedly a lazy horse. But man, the Cedillo won this race. And I think Sean even said it when we were doing the live stream, is that Cedillo was the reason this horse won. He got the lead at the 16th pole. I called him a winner. Yeah. Cedillo kind of stopped riding him. You see in the win photo that we've got shared here in the live stream that, the whip is up there. The last 16th, he was just showing him the whip. He wasn't scrubbing him. He wasn't hitting him. He knew he had it. And it doesn't show in the original replay, but if you watched the gallop out live, you saw Cedillo stand straight up in the irons and just duck his head under and give the biggest sigh I've ever seen a jockey have on a horse, because he knew he was that close to losing on a huge favorite. So I thought that reaction was really funny too.
Yeah, he definitely acted like he had that horse measured the whole way, and he did. But man, I don't know if he knew it was that close, and I don't think he expected that big of an effort from the inside horse there. I mean, it was a monster effort there from midcourt, and do we play him back? I mean, that's a question that someone asked in the chat here. I think it really depends on who he faces. I think that this was a really good first race back, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of question marks, not just the switching of the barns, but also coming back from overseas. How much did that race take out of him? And this was a very professional effort. Things did not go Maximum Security's way, and he still was able to dig in and win and wasn't fully ass down the lane. Now, you're going to face a lot better horses than midcourt and Higher Power as you move forward here. I'm not sure if it will be in the Pacific Classic or if it's going to be in the Breeders' Cup Classic, but the waters do not get shallower from this point. We'll put it that way. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And we've talked about Bob Baffert a lot. He sets up for that third off the layoff. Third off the layoff is going to be the Breeders' Cup Classic. So you would expect that might be the race that he's going to be fully tuned up for. So I think that my opinion here is you probably try and beat him next out and then play him back in the Breeders' Cup if you get the opportunity to at a price. I think it's kind of how you kind of shuffle the deck. I will not be singling this horse next time out, but I do think you got to include him as a defensive use.
I think so. Here's a big thing, and you're someone who is, I will always admit, is smarter at this sort of thing than I am. If you're watching the screen right there, what is that number right there? That's 127 that he was carrying. He's carrying 5 pounds more than midcourt, and he still got the win. Assuming they go to Pacific Classic with less of a handicap against him from a weight perspective, you have to think the fact that Maximum Security carried so much weight, got the win, fought hard, showed that he still has a heart and doesn't need the service juice. You have to like all of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a good effort. Was I blown away by the horse? No. But do I think the horse was fully cranked? No. And so, I think it was a very professional effort, very workmanlike, and you got to be happy with what he was able to do here. I mean, to me, that's kind of the bottom line of it. But again, I think that people are going to take this and they're going to say, okay, he's going to be the same horse. I expect him to get bet pretty heavy in the Pacific Classic, and I expect similar rides to try and beat him. And if that happens, you could see a chink in the armor.
All right, this is going to be where I get on my soapbox and scream about how stupid I am, because
I tried, man.
You tried. So in the Pick 4 sequence show that we gave out last week, Mike liked the 10 horse Zimba's Warrior in the opener, and I said I didn't like him just because I didn't think that this horse liked to win. And it's something that Aaron Halterman a couple months ago was like, you need to stop with that shit because it's hurting you when you were handicapping. So this is my official statement. I'm done ignoring giant class drops. And the horse was Zimba's Warrior, who had been facing a lot harder, much higher class, and he loved to finish second. And so I was taking a stand because I was like, look, I'm trying to get a price home of some sort with maximum security singled. So I need a price here. So taking him at 2-1 wasn't going to sound good at all. But you made an excellent point for why Zimba Warrior should be used based off of the class. And you specifically said, this is where he fits. This is the correct level for him. So I'm officially saying I'm giving a lot more credence to class drops when it's to put a horse into a better situation. If this horse dropped down to the 16K claiming level, maybe I'm a little more nervous, and maybe you are too, but I'll hand it to you. You were right about Zimba Warrior. I was wrong. Talk a little bit more about why that whole process worked for you.
Well, you hit the nail on the head there. It's the ridiculous drop that you have to be watch out for, right? They're not giving this horse away for 50. And as you mentioned, he hasn't been overly successful facing better. So the $50,000 level is probably where the horse fits the best. And you have a horse that has raced well against American Theorem, against Storm the Court, 1,000 Words, Authentic, Azul Coast. I mean, there's a lot of very good horses in the back class here that he's running behind and getting beaten by. But everyone in this race would have gotten beaten by those horses. And so you have to almost take a look at it and say, okay, where does he kind of fit in this field, and what level should he be at? And that was really why I ended up I was too deep in the must uses here, the 3 and the 10. And the 10, I like that 6-1 price. I'm with you. The 2-1 was a little disappointing. I was hoping that more people would feel the way you did, and I get that 6-1 price on him.
Right.
But to me, a lot of times it's, does the horse fit there? And if this horse was down in 16, the horse wouldn't have fit there either. And so that to me would have been more of a defensive, okay, I really got to take a look at this horse, versus where at 50, that's probably the right level for this horse. And when a horse is spotted correctly, this is the result you get. A lot of times high percentage barns spot better than everyone else. And that's something where people don't talk about a lot. If you have those good barns, sometimes it's just they put their horses in places where they can win, and they are willing to risk losing the horse for the horse to be able to win. And that is finally what the 10 horse got here. Zimba Warrior finally got in a spot where it could win against horses at the level that it's at.
Yeah, sorry if you were watching live. I didn't realize I clicked on something out of there. Also, again, I even said it. I was like, Kozan, if we're at Gulfstream Park, that's a sire we love to play in those Florida state bred stakes especially. So, listen, this is me saying I'm done. I'm going to give more credence to this sort of thing. And tell you what, it worked, because when I was retroactively capping Sunday's card this morning, I got onto a couple of horses where I don't know that I would necessarily pick them, just because I was like, all right, is this a better fit? What's going to work out there? So that's what I learned. It was a big one, but I feel better publicly admitting it, right? Accepting it is the first step, right?
That's what they say. Yeah. No, well, we always say you're paying for an education every day. The question is whether or not you're learning anything from it, right? So, if you're going to bet money, you're going to learn some things. You're going to lose, and if you don't look back at why you lost, you're not going to get very much better. You're just going to keep making the same mistakes. So, you should be spending as much time handicapping the races when they're over as you do before. And I think that's something that is a pretty big hole in a lot of people's game. Speaking
of things that we learned, Mike, I don't know if you knew this. Constitution, pretty good as a sire.
Did we mention that on this show before?
Yeah, maybe once or twice. Laura's Light got the big win in the San Clemente Stakes over the weekend. That was a really impressive effort from her. I know you said you were hoping to get the 9 home, but Laura's Light, we all had her. Jared loved her as well.
Yep.
So talk about Constitution, and also another sire that is pretty hot so far in his freshman year.
Yeah, we kind of pick out horses every now and then and shamelessly get behind them.
Violence was the first year. Constitution last year.
Yeah, Constitution was last year, and Violence didn't have a bad weekend with Volatile either. He's got some of the top sprinters in the world right now in Violence. Also the Slim horse, because in the The group.
No parole.
There we go. Knew you'd know it. So yeah, I mean, violence is still churning and burning, baby. Obviously, Constitution is the son of Tappet. Tappet's. We've been waiting for that second sire, Tappet. Like, there's a lot of Tappet sons have not been as good as sires as you'd expect, and usually in the bloodline, there's a couple that really pop. And in this case, man, Constitution just keeps on giving on dirt, on turf. Irish Constitution broke his maiden on Friday at Saratoga. And then you had Laura's Light, who won on the turf. The Irish Constitution was on the dirt. For a barn that doesn't win, I think it was the Handle barn. It's like 4%, 5% first time out, but the workout reports were very good on the horse, and it was a very professional effort. So you got to be including those Constitutions. And I kind of have one that I like now. So I don't know if you remember the horse Outwork. Do you remember him?
No, that was before my time.
2016. So this horse breaks its maiden first effort at Keeneland, comes back, wins an allowance at Tampa, runs back into the Tampa Bay Derby, runs second, wins the Wood, and then gets hurt in the Derby. Never seen again. Oh. And it's it's Uncle Mo by Nora Mia, who was also an early winner. It was a Pletcher horse. It was a Pletcher Rapoli horse. Now this Pletcher Rapoli horse is putting out its first round of children. So there were 21 sold in 2018 who are on the track this year. We had a winner at Saratoga, Wesley Ward, out the door, I think it was, who won on the turf extremely impressively. That's his horse to stable up. She'll be in a stakes race next. And we had a horse that ran second earlier in the card to an FNX who's got his first sire win that I realized probably has won before, but FNX got his first Spa sire win, that's for sure.
Oh, that was his first winner.
That was his first winner. Yeah. And so that's another early sire that I'm interested in. I'm not as excited about, but Outwork to me is one of those where I think you really got to keep an eye out for it. And it's not like the horse didn't beat anything in this spot. Outwork, so Altador was the horse. This was Sunday in the fifth race at Saratoga. Right to his inside was an Asmussen 5-2 American Pharaoh that sold for 150. This is on the grass. American Gentleman was to his outside, also out of the Handle barn, who was working with Irish Constitution, sold for 240,000. Beat him, and a $500,000 Warfront horse was the 10 horse out of the Wesley Ward barn, who we also beat. And this was an interesting one. If you are going back and looking at this race to cap, note that Irad left the 10 for the 2. And they're both Ward horses. One was a Warfront $500,000 horse. He left that horse who ran second as a 70 cent on the dollar favorite in the first race to ride the 2 who ends up scoring, I think it was like 4 or 5 to 1 first time out for Wesley Ward. That was a big giveaway that horse was going to fire on top of my shameless love for Outwork that I think is going to start growing here.
Well, it's good. And Outwork, what I like about you bringing up Outwork as well is that it's I think he stands in New York. Am I mistaken on that? I'm going to look it up real quick.
I would not. He's at the same place as Constitution is.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, when
I looked it up, they were both Gainesway. I think it was
WinStar.
WinStar. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay,
WinStar.
no, that's fine. I really thought that he was. I thought that he was in New York because there was a New York bred horse, so that's how it worked. And
it's interesting too. Just last thing, you can tell with these freshman sire, he was 15,000 last year. He's 20,000 before horse hit the track this year. Just to breed to him. So 5,000, literally, it's a 33% jump before a horse hit the track. You know that there were some fast horses, and there was a $500,000 Outwork out there. There's some big numbers that went through the sales for a $15,000 sire.
That's crazy. Well, we haven't talked about this. Someone brought up in the chat. Not this time. That's a good one too. That's one of those ones that he was a win early type. He was a very highly regarded horse. As a 2-year-old, he was hurt shortly. I think Breeders' Cup Juvenile did get hurt in the race as he was finishing, something like that. I think it was shortly after they said he's hurt and he's out and we're going to retire him. But that one's a little bit less of a surprise, but still is a great stallion so far from what we're seeing, right?
Yeah, and that's to me, this is kind of one of those the cool angles that you can find. I mean, if you're playing fantasy baseball, it's the top draft picks that burned out in one city and go to another. They get forgotten about sometime. It's the same thing in horse racing. You have these hyped horses that were supposed to be superstars, and something goes wrong. Those first crops can often be very good because if you're a hyped horse and you're supposed to be a superstar, you're probably pretty precocious as a 2-year-old. And if that's the case, your children should be very precocious or have a better tendency to be precocious. So if you can get this win early pedigree and you get these forgotten horses, because it's not the Justifies, it's not those type of horses where everyone knows it. Outwork is one of those horses where not a lot of people remember, but he was supposed to be a really, really good horse. And this was 2016, and now you're getting value on the Outwork children coming out. So, and again, this is a well-bred horse. I want to say Outwork was Uncle Mo, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Uncle
Yeah.
Mo. So it's a second sire of a very good sire who fires on turf and dirt. I mean, this is
And fires early.
it's like it's a Magic Mike horse. I mean, it's like one of these that we always talk about. So I'm glad he had a good weekend over at Saratoga, and it's definitely one that I'm looking for his younglings out there on the track.
So basically what Mike is saying is that we're looking for our first round draft pick for the 2021 Fantasy League because we went with Constitution in the first round this year, and we're going to hopefully get ourselves an Outwork. So if you got a good horse that's by Outwork looking like they're going to handle 2 turns pretty well, has a good sharp turn of foot, early speed, let us know.
Yeah, my racehorse, if you're listening, let's get an Outwork up there. We'll grab a piece of him, see what happens.
Mike, we didn't talk about it, but one thing I can't believe I forgot to mention it for us to talk about real quick is Starship Jubilee winning the Boston Spa. And the reason this is news is not because she's now 4 for 4 in stakes races in 2020 and at 7 years old looks just freaking phenomenal. Sister Charlie did not run well. She finished third. It was a pretty well-beaten third, although to his credit, John Velasquez, once he realized she wasn't picking up her feet, just rode her home. So she got third, but that was not a good performance from her. And she looked a little anti-Sister Charlie in her last race, which was the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. You're willing to forgive that because she finished third in the Breeders' Cup, but I don't know. Going into the Breeders' Cup, I said that I thought that she might be losing just a tiny bit step. I was a little nervous, but I don't know at this point if I'm ready to say that. Chad usually has her ready to fire. She's shown that she's ready to fire fresh. What are you going to do with Sister Charlie moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I was one of those people who hit the all button in that race. I thought she was vulnerable in that spot, and I turned out to be right there. So I'm not sure is the honest answer. Normally, Chad's horses fire there. That's the thing. Normally, those horses are ready to roll and they perform well and get the job done. And this time, she just didn't look like she had it. So it'll be interesting to see where he comes back with her. I'm not ready to close the book on her, but I'm also not taking 2 to 5 on her. I think that's really, it's strange to say this. I can't believe I'm saying this. You need to demand value when playing Sister Charlie now. And the value is definitely no longer 2 to 5. So it's going to be interesting to see where she comes back. I assume she'll be back at the Spa later this season and just how well she runs.
I'm going to get lucky here at Del Mar, switch topics on you. That I was 4-7 and the 7 broke through the gate and got hurt. And so the 3 becomes the pick, is the 8-5 favorite from a 15-1 morning line and is drawing off in this stretch like a monster to also give Alexis Santino her first win of the meet. She's a 10-pound jockey bug girl. If I remember correctly, she is the one who's also a vet, and she just rides in the summer at Del Mar. So, but anyways, that worked out for me. I saw that was going to be the favorite who I got, and I was like, I don't like that horse. I'm really glad that that's what happened. Raise
your hand if you use that horse in every single tournament, every single pick 5, and included and specifically left off the favorite in the first race, the 3 horse, who was a bad favorite in the morning line, to use that horse. 9-5? I thought I was going to get 15-1 on this thing. I can't believe it. Oh, that was so brutal, man. And this is I don't have the PPs up in front of me, but this was a great example of 5.5 furlongs. You need to be speed. You need to have speed. And we talk about bugs on speed at low levels. This is a great example. You're getting 10 pounds. This horse ran the best when Valdez was a bug and a board, and now you get 10 pounds off instead of 5. When you look back at the PPs, you're going to be kicking yourself. It makes a ton of sense as to why that horse was able to run away there and hide. I would have loved 15-1 though. I mean, 9-5, I'm not interested. I probably wouldn't have played the horse. It was 9-5, but 15-1, I was salivating, and was one of the specific reasons I didn't hit the all button in the first leg in the Samba Bombs.
I legitimately thought that horse was by run away and hide the way you made that joke right there. I had to go back and double check because I thought for sure she was by run. Nope. Okay. By the way, I almost used her when I was looking at it because of the 10-pound bug and everything. You said that. Also a class drop, 25,000 down to 16,000 non-winners of 2 lifetimes. So it fit, there's a good fit there. So
0 for 11 jockey, 15-1 goes off at 8-5.
Somebody knew something, man. Somebody had to know something on the backside for that to happen.
To be fair though, the favorite in the race was the 7. Who was a $22 will pay to the pick 3. The 3 was a $38 will pay. So the 3 would have been double the price of the 7. I'm telling you right now, the 3 was winning that race, regardless of whether or not the 7 ran. Yeah. Because that was an impressive look there from the 3. And we'll see what happens. I'm fortunate. I had the 1-3-7 in that race and everything. So we'll double up. I would have loved to have the 15-1 and have the 7 in the race. But if we're going to have the favorite, might as well get it twice.
All right, that's going to wrap things up for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks so much for talking about some of the things that are going through with Mike and other things that we learned from this past weekend. Hopefully, we were able to teach you some stuff. Del Mar is continuing. They just finished race 3. So if you're watching us live, hopefully that insight we gave about the speed and how the track is playing, especially on the dirt at Del Mar, hopefully you take that moving forward. Mike, we got kind of a big week coming up because we got not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 Breeders' Cup winning or in races between Saratoga and Del Mar this weekend. We got 5 stakes races at Saratoga on Saturday. It's all part of the inside track to the Whitney Stakes wagering guide. But the Whitney's a winning you're in for the Breeders' Cup Classic. You got the Personal Ensign, which is a winning you're in for the Distaff. We haven't seen the fields. I haven't looked at the fields yet. I know that Del Mar is out right now, but it's going to be a busy weekend.
Yeah, the shared belief looks freaking loaded. Now, someone asked about Uncle Chuck earlier, and he's going to scratch out the shared belief and go to the Travers from what everything sounds like. I will be playing Uncle Chuck in the Travers. I'm an Uncle Chuck believer. I have been before he broke his maiden. Magic can validate that. I was Uncle Chuck before this thing started out of the gate. And I'm
gonna hide my face right now.
So when Baffert nominated this horse, Magic, to his credit, brought him up to me. I then did a little digging, and I was all in. So I don't see how you don't use Uncle Chuck. If Baffert, this horse is being compared to Airgate, and Baffert's sending this horse to the Travers when he needs the points. It tells you everything you need to know. This horse is going to run first or second, and Tizelaw is going to be the other one. You can play that exact and pretty cold.
Yeah, I've been kind of scared of the Travers because the Saratoga is the graveyard of champions. You've seen, Pharaoh famously lost the Travers. Favorites, and I feel like favorites in the Travers especially is a dangerous thing. In the short time I've been paying attention to horse racing, I'm scared of Uncle Chuck. The one thing that I'm telling myself is going to make it okay that he's going to be first, that Tizelaw is still going to win, is that Mike Smith can't go with him. So if Mike Smith can't go with Uncle Chuck, you're relying on somebody out there to ride. I don't know if Irad Ortiz Jr. has a mount lined up for that race yet or not, but he might be one because I know Baffert's worked with him.
I don't know if Dr. Post is going. Is Dr. Post going?
No, Dr. Post is training to the Derby.
Okay, so Irad's available, then I bet that's the pickup.
I'd go with either him or Saez. Those are the two guys that Baffert's used a lot in California when he's had to ship east. So we'll see what happens with that. But they're both training lights out, unbelievably lights out. Tizelaw has been fighting to Barclay Tagg said, I send him for 5, he gallops out 7. I send him for 7, he goes 1.5 miles, and I just can't stop the horse. So that's a good thing as the distances go longer. But that Uncle Chuck and that turn of foot that he's got, man, that's I'm a little scared. Not gonna lie.
The scary thing is we have no clue. And this is true for both of these horses. We don't know how good Uncle Chuck is yet.
Yeah.
We're like, your guess is a guess. That's it. And who knows where we're gonna end up. When we're going to end up actually seeing all the talent there. And it's funny, people are like, well, he didn't beat anything. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. It's like, watch the race. Just watch the race. The horse
just watch him.
Loaded with talent. And if he's got Bob Baffert as a trainer, the talent's going to be oozing out of him at some point. And you're just not sure when that's going to be. So usually it's third start off the layoff, which, by the way, would be the Travers. But he's probably prepping him for the Derby to be the top. But he needs, much like Justify, he needs points in his final race before the Derby to be able to get there. Now, I'm not going to compare him to Justify and Airgate in 5 minutes because that'd be insane. And Mike Smith is the one who compared him to Airgate, which smarter horseman than me. But we'll see what happens there. I mean, I'm still Tizelaw is the best 2-year-old, but I've been pretty vocal that the next 3 are Uncle Chuck, AP, Honor AP, and Dr. Post. I don't think there's much question about it. Our collector would kind of fall in that 5, 6, 7 range. We talked about it last show. For me, he's got to face a little bit more. We'll see what happens in the Ellis Derby. I think that's where he's going next, right?
Yeah, Ellis Park Derby is where they'll go. But by the way, the trainer said, I don't need him to win. I just need to make sure he's using it instead of working the horse up to the Derby. He's just going to keep him fit. And I heard that after he won the Bluegrass, and I went, so what you're saying is don't play him in the Ellis Park Derby because you don't have confidence. Like, you're not going to push him to win. That's interesting.
Might be a good time to try and beat him. It's also interesting. We talked about this. Sometimes you do some funky things when you're facing new pressures. And this is a new trainer on the Derby trail. I mean, he's been around for a long time, not going to knock Drury at all. He's a very good trainer. It's just even the best of the best sometimes have hiccups when they're doing something new. And that's definitely something that's going on here.
See, I'm going to disagree with Dennis. He says it's a prep race for Tizelaw. He doesn't have to win. No, he doesn't. But you've got to remember, he's a New York bred. It's Saratoga stable, which loves Saratoga. They're going to go all out for this. They're not going to hold back because also they've won the Derby and they've won the Preakness before. So the Belmont, that was like the big thing they needed to get over. And I'm not saying that they're thinking the Travers is more important than the Kentucky Derby, but if you think that those guys, that'd be like telling Saratoga Slim, like, look, man, don't worry about the Travers. It's not worth winning. Just try and win the Kentucky Derby. No, you get punched in the face if you say that to Saratoga Slim.
Well, I can tell you this. In my family, the Travers, if we owned a Travers winner, that would probably be something we'd celebrate more than a Derby winner. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, but we grew up here. I've rushed the gates at Saratoga year after year. I mean, this is
different.
Yeah, you on Travers Day, you line up at the gates at 4 a.m., rush in, get a picnic table, and then watch every single Travers replays from 1950s on or whenever it goes back to on before you have breakfast and watch horses work out. I mean, it is what you do up here, and that is where I grew up and where I learned. And to win the Travers, I mean, I was never even into that. I've never been to a Derby. To win the Travers would mean so much more to my father, to me, and I'm sure they feel the same way up here.
Yeah, if you were worried about stallion rates, yeah, Kentucky Derby, that's going to look better on a resume. Sure. But first of all, Tizzle, you don't have to worry about that. He's fine. I think they've already got the deal done, actually, for him.
He's already got a Triple Crown win.
Yeah, there you go. You're good. So anyways, the inside track to the Whitney Stakes wagering guide is going to be available for pre-sale, hopefully by the end of today, if not tomorrow morning. We're going to have every race on the card covered for you. Full race previews of the Bowling Green, the Caress, the Jerkins, the Personal Ensign, and the Whitney, plus race-by-race analysis included as well from Mr. Aaron Halterman. It's going to be exciting, but because of that, Mike, it's probably good news for us. We're going to stay at Del Mar for the Pick 4 sequence coming up later this week, because there we've got the Bing Crosby, which is a grade 1 Breeders' Cup winning year in. McKinsey. Bob Baffert pulled an audible after McKinsey worked on Sunday. They said, we're going to the Bing Crosby instead of the Whitney.
Smart.
Well, I think smart for multiple reasons, but I was all excited to hammer Collusion Illusion, which is one of my favorite 3-year-olds right now. I don't know if I'm going to do that. McKinsey's going to go in there. I'm going to have to look at that a little bit closer. But make sure you check out the inside track to the Whitney Stakes wagering guide. And then Mike and I will be back on Thursday, 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific, to talk about Del Mar's late pick 4 on Saturday. Anything else you're looking forward to this week, Mr. Samich? You're still in Saratoga.
I'm still in Saratoga. It's just going to be a lot of fun. I've driven by the track a couple times, and it is eerie, man. Oh, anyone from Naira?
Did you do the ladder thing? Did you do that on the weekend?
No, I didn't. Anyone from Naira, if you're listening to this, turn off the damn TVs. Every single TV is on in the track, and if you've been to Saratoga, it's like 1,000 the whole time from like 10 a.m. through the end of the races. Every TV is on. It's like the electricity alone is ridiculous. The bill that they're paying for just having all these TVs. It's like at the top of the stretch near the picnic tables. Every TV, the entire place is on. There's maybe 150 people there. Everyone has 2 TVs to themselves at this point. It's just ridiculous. Turn the TVs off. Save some power.
I was laughing when Saratoga Slim sent out a tweet about that or last week, because Slim is an electrical engineer. He's a bigwig for General Electric, and so he knows what he's talking about. And he says, turn that shit off. You can put that money into your purses, for crying out loud. But he sounded like such an old man. Turn the TV off if you're not in the room.
It's just such a waste.
It is a waste for that many TVs for that kind of
have the big screen in the middle on so people can see, maybe a couple TVs elsewhere. But they're like, the owners are going out and watching their horses out front. They just want the big screen. You don't need, like, if you've ever been there, they have the umbrellas and there's 6 TVs around. And there's like, wow. So 6 TVs per pole. And at the top of the front turn, the top of the final turn, all of them are on. And there's like 20 of them right there. I'm just like, who's watching this? No one.
Yeah, who's watching it, and why can't they move down a pole to watch from there instead?
Anyway, there's the Mike Random rant for the day.
Oh, you guys you're just old dads. That's what it is. Well, you're not nearly as old as Slim is, but you're still, you're both dads. That's a dad thing. Me, I don't care.
You go ahead and leave your TV on and every light on in your house, in your apartment for a month, and see what happens when Mrs. Magic gets that bill.
I'd be telling tales out of school if I said she's actually the one that does all of that, and I'm the one that goes behind and click. So.
I see whose team you're on then.
Hand of God. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
We'll see you next time. And once again, Magic forgot to have the video all queued up, and now we're gone.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.